Dallas Cowboys at the Carolina Panthers, 2-2-1. Dallas Cowboys. It's Sunday at 1. Cowboys favored by 3. This is the stretch. The next 4 games have road. 3 out of the next 4 that we're going to talk about have road favorites. Cowboys by 3, over under 49.5. 2-2-1 Cowboys against the 2-3 Panthers.
What a wild. So PFF graded quarterbacks this year. Sam Darnold, number 1. Matthew Stafford, number 2. Dak Prescott, number 3. And then Josh Allen. Like, it's quite a wild list so far.
I mean, I said Sam Darnold's the best quarterback in the 2018 draft class.
You did.
I said
at one point
behind
you
Baker.
did say that.
I did say he could be in any given season.
Yeah.
Dak Prescott's playing out of his mind this year. I think
despite terrible offensive line.
Yeah, last week we broke down all of the stats. Last week at this time, I didn't update them specifically, but over 100 yards more than anyone else, passing under pressure. The fact that they had the lowest pass blocking grade of any offensive line in the NFL or any pass blocking grade per PFF. That got better last week against the Jets, Jets pass rush. But I think Dak's playing out of his mind and doing it against good teams this year. That was a question a couple years ago. He's beaten up on the bad Commanders teams and the bad Giants teams a couple years ago. Now he's going toe-to-toe with the Eagles and the Packers and doing it with injuries. And this might be the best stretch. I don't know if it's the best stretch of play in Dak Prescott's career, but some of the best results. And we're sleeping on it a little bit because the defense has been so awful.
Prescott is completing over 67% of his passes when pressured this season. That's like 5 percentage points higher than anybody else. And it's not because the ball's not going anywhere. He's averaging over 8 yards per attempt when under pressure. Like, these are utterly insane numbers.
The other piece of this, Brian Schottenheimer's first year as head coach. And remember, we're very, even keel takes here. And we said, look, no one wanted to interview Brian Schottenheimer as the head coach. Dallas targeted him. The one point I brought up in his favor is that he was the guy adjacent to, or offensive coordinator. I think he was calling plays for Russell Wilson's 2 best seasons. He was offensive coordinator in name for Dak's MVP caliber season in 2023. He wasn't calling the plays, but he was offensive coordinator in name. I'm just telling you, for 2 quarterbacks who have been good with spurts of great, Russell Wilson and Dak Prescott, Brian Schottenheimer has been adjacent to the great parts of both of their careers.
Yeah.
And we're in the middle of that again with Dak. We didn't, like last year, Dak was hurt. We didn't see great play from him when he was out there, but he was hurt for much of the season. Brian Schottenheimer, a guy whose dad was just run, punts, that was his style. Early in his career, Schottenheimer had that maybe a stigma attached to him. He's run heavy and, archaic and play calling. He's had a really good run here as far as quarterback play. The biggest question for Dallas, if they are in this world, if their defense can just be average, they're a good competitive football team.
Definitely. Just if the defense just doesn't stink. Like, this offense is doing really well despite missing CeeDee Lamb, despite having a banged up and not very good offensive line to begin with. It's kind of amazing what they're doing. I mean, Dak Prescott is playing out of his mind generally. He's playing out of his mind under pressure. They're getting play out of the other receivers within the offense, even though they've had to go into the depth chart. It's kind of remarkable what their offense is doing, and it's all being undermined to the tune of, 500 or whatever by the fact that the defense is still giving up historic, awful numbers.
Hey guys, real quick, only 40% of our viewers are actually subscribed, so let's change that. Hit that subscribe button, and now let's get back to the action. So the analyst in me, when I look at, say, Sam Darnold's numbers or the Cowboys' numbers, I say they're so extreme they have to get better.
Yeah.
Just like the law of averages, they're not that bad. Like the Cowboys they're not like a Big Ten defense playing in the NFL. They should be much better. And Sam Darnold, as great as he's played, it's tough. Like, you want to give him credit for that, but you also say, man, he's probably not going to complete 73% of his 20-plus yard throws. He's probably not going to maintain that level. So that's how I feel about Dallas. Like, they're going to play better defensively. They were trying to figure out their pass rush early on, big rotation on the defensive line to try to replace Micah Parsons. They should be better. They probably shouldn't have that many receivers running wide open behind the defense. Now, did we learn anything last week against the bad Jets offense? Probably not. This will be more challenging, I think, against Carolina, but not much more. Bryce Young's got to be more consistent. They got to find more targets beyond Teterow and McMillan. And then just staying on the Dallas offense for a minute. Second straight week, they're going up against a below-average pass rush. So theoretically, it should be a little bit easier for Dak than it had been early on. I like a lot of where Dallas is at this point.
Yeah, I mean, particularly on that side of the ball, I think things are in good shape. I'm definitely always a little bit concerned when a guy is playing so well under pressure because generally speaking, there are very few quarterbacks that are able to sustain that at any kind of high level. But as you said, Carolina doesn't get a ton of pressure. That is a weakness of that defense. Like it's tough to see this Carolina defense having a random day where they shut down the Cowboys offense. Then the question becomes, does Dallas's defense act as this get-right spot for Bryce Young and the Carolina offense the way it's been for other teams this year?
Really quick, just to talk about Bryce Young and where he is. Again, Sam Hoppins, accumulation of stats here.
Mm-hmm.
25th in PFF grade at 63.8, 29th in EPA per play, 24th in success rate, below average in CPOE, turnover-worthy plays up at 25th, 3.8%. Not a lot of good. I mean, the turnovers of all the teams in the league, I don't think Carolina's played great, but if you just take like the number of times that Bryce Young's had 2 turnovers in the game and early, Jacksonville game last week, they overcame it last week, but Carolina's almost, in the game against Arizona, maybe in a better game against Jacksonville back in week 1 if Bryce Young just doesn't turn the ball over. I don't think he's playing great right now, but it's not at either extreme level of what we saw last year where Bryce Young was either completely overwhelmed and didn't look like an NFL quarterback or he was really promising and doing some really nice things. I think he's just been dead smack in the middle of that and no strong take either way on Bryce Young's play.
I mean, his problem is he's not nearly productive enough to deal with that level of turnovers or turnover-worthy plays. Like Bryce Young, if you're going to have the type of games that he's been having, which is relatively low production, relatively low ability to move the ball, you can't turn it over. Like you have to protect the football if you're going to play that way. So the reason he's ranked that lowly in terms of things like PFF grade is you haven't been that productive and you're putting the ball in harm's way. That's a bad combination. Now, we've talked about this before. They've opened the window for Jalen Coker to come back. I think the sooner they get him back in the lineup, the better. That's going to serve as a really important upgrade, I think, to that receiving core. I know Xavier Legette made one play in the end zone, but I mean, he's averaging like 0.3 yards per route run or something insane this year, having been wildly unproductive in his rookie season.
That number. That's got to be the worst number of all time.
If it's not, it's really, really close. I mean, it's all-time awful. So, I mean, at that point, you're talking about a guy who's genuinely a net drag on the offense. Like, if you're playing that much and not moving the ball whatsoever, you're taking up a spot that could be filled by somebody that might actually catch the football every now and again. So if Jalen Coker comes back and he is what he was a year ago, honestly, Legette should barely play from that point on. And the snaps are filled by McMillan, by Coker. They're already getting Jimmy Horn Jr. involved a little bit more. Like that becomes the receiving core, and then maybe you trot Legette out every now and again, tell him go deep, then get back on the bench. But, like, he shouldn't feature from that point on.
All right, man. Not to bring this up again, but there's a lot of what Dallas has done that's impressed me this year now, sitting here 5 weeks in. Matt, if they did have Micah Parsons and the defense was better, they're in the mix as one of the better teams. I think the defense will still get better at some point here. I think they're going to figure it out. Yeah. Maybe not be great, but I think they're in creep back toward average territory. And then you look at the way they built the backfield, I've said, that's very analytically driven. You're getting great play from Javonte Williams, and you got George Pickens, who, by the way, is leading the league in end zone targets per our 33rd team, crack research team. They're getting the most out of Pickens right now. That looks like a good move for Dallas. Watch out for the Cowboys. Watch out for the Cowboys. All right, they're favored by 3 this Sunday against Carolina. Where are you going?
Yeah, I'm picking them to win and cover the 3. It is interesting to think, if you just put Micah Parsons on that defense, what would it be?
Yeah. Well, then our story would be, all right, not so much. Like, they're still good, but now can they win in the playoffs? They might be an 11-4 in one team or 11-5 in one team or something that's like, all right, now can you make the playoff run?
Particularly as, Kenny Clark, I think, has made an impact on that defense, and Green Bay presumably was perfectly willing to shed his salary the way they were. I wonder, what if Dallas had simply said, you know what, let's pay Micah Parsons his money and then just trade for Kenny Clark, What if we just flip a mid-round pick to the Packers for Kenny Clark? We don't have to give up Micah Parsons. Maybe that was a better way of going.
I mean, we'll be talking plenty of the Cowboys
maybe
the next
that's
couple of years because of the 2 first rounders.
Maybe that's what Jerry meant to do, He tried to give a thumbs up to a fan and accidentally flipped him off instead. Maybe Jerry was just trying to trade for Kenny Clark and accidentally shipped away Micah Parsons.
Or they were in the negotiations and he was trying to give the thumbs up to Micah on the contract.
And accidentally flipped him off.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe that was it.
Or with the agent that he never talked to.
Right. Doesn't even know his name. Thanks for watching all the way to the end of the video.
Check the Mic is live every Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday, so be sure to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss a thing.
And the all-knowing algorithm is convinced you'll also like these videos, and who are we to argue?